My deaf husband just spoke to me. That's not a metaphor. That's not me being dramatic. My husband, who I'd spent a year and a half learning sign language for, who I'd quit my job to support, who I was 6 months pregnant with, just opened his mouth and said actual words in a voice I'd never heard before. Judith, I need to tell you something. I'm standing in our kitchen in Palo Alto, holding a note I'd just written asking if he wanted red or white wine with dinner. The note falls from my hands. I turn around slowly, my pregnant belly bumping the counter. Paul is standing there, looking at me with those brown eyes that used to watch my lips when I spoke. Except now his lips are moving. Making sounds. Real sounds. I'm not deaf, he says. I never was. Let me back up. Because this story doesn't start in that kitchen. It starts 2 years earlier, when I was 32 and desperate. It was 1991. I was living in a cramped studio in San Francisco, working as a junior architect, and fielding weekly phone calls from my mother about my biological clock. Your sister Rachel just told me she's expecting again. That'll be 3 grandchildren, Judith. 3. Every Sunday, same conversation. The Patterson's daughter just got engaged. Remember Lisa? She's 26. I'd grip the phone tighter, stare out at the fog. That's wonderful, Mom. I just don't understand what you're waiting for. You're not getting any younger. Men don't want to marry women in their 30s who. Mom, I have to go. But here's the thing, she wasn't completely wrong. I was lonely. Tired of coming home to an empty apartment. Tired of being the only single person at every family gathering. So when my mother called about Paul Wade, I listened. He's Hannah Wade's son. You remember Hannah from my book club? Her son started some kind of computer company. Very successful, very handsome. And he's ready to settle down. Mom, I'm not going on another blind date. This is different. He's special, Judith. He had a motorcycle accident a few years ago. He lost his hearing. I paused. He's completely deaf, but he's adapted. He reads lips beautifully and knows sign language. A lot of women don't want to deal with that. But I thought you might be different. You've always been so patient. I should have heard the manipulation. But instead, I heard opportunity. A man who wouldn't judge me for being 32 and unmarried. A man who might be grateful someone was willing to learn his language and adapt to his world. Okay, I said. One dinner. Paul Wade was everything my mother promised. Tall, dark hair graying at the temples, sharp brown eyes. Expensive suits, drove a Mercedes, worked in Silicon Valley doing something with computer software. Our first dinner was at an Italian restaurant in San Jose. I'd spent 2 weeks learning basic sign language from a book. But Paul made it easy. He brought a notepad and pen, and we wrote back and forth like teenagers. Your mother talks about you constantly, he wrote. The brilliant architect daughter. The stubborn one who won't settle down. I laughed, embarrassed. She makes me sound like a prize mare she's trying to sell. He smiled and wrote, she undersold you. Something shifted in my chest. We started dating. Meeting for dinners, walking along the beach, going to movies. Sometimes he'd take my hand and squeeze it during romantic scenes. I took evening classes to learn sign language properly. Paul was patient, correcting my hand positions gently. His fingers warm against mine as he showed me the right way to sign love or tomorrow or beautiful. His mother Hannah was thrilled. She invited us for Sunday dinners, watching us sign to each other with tears in her eyes. I was so worried he'd never find anyone, she told me one evening. After the accident, he withdrew so much. Broke up with his girlfriend Nicole. She said she couldn't handle being with someone who was deaf. Can you imagine the cruelty? I couldn't. What kind of person abandons someone they love because of a disability? 8 months in, Paul proposed. He took me to the beach at sunset and wrote in enormous letters in the sand, "Will you marry me, Judith?" I cried. I signed yes over and over. When he slipped the ring onto my finger, a beautiful diamond that must have cost 3 months of my salary, I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. We got married 3 months later in Napa Valley. Small ceremony. A sign language interpreter conducted it. When we exchanged vows, I signed mine with tears streaming down my face. I'd found my person. A man who communicated with me in the most intentional way possible, every word written or signed with purpose. We moved into a house in Palo Alto. A real house with a backyard and an office where I could spread out my blueprints. Paul's software company was doing well. His business partners were talking about going public. Hannah suggested I cut back hours at the architecture firm. Paul agreed enthusiastically. You'll want to be home more once the baby comes, Hannah said over dinner. I got pregnant 4 months after the wedding. When the 2 pink lines appeared, I ran to find Paul. I was crying, laughing, trying to sign and fumbling it. Finally just showing him the test. His face lit up. He pulled me into his lap, kissed me, held me tight. Then he signed slowly, "You'll be an amazing mother." The pregnancy was hard. Morning sickness all day. Exhaustion that made work impossible. At 5 months, I quit the architecture firm. Paul was supportive. He made more than enough for both of us. Hannah was thrilled. "Now you can focus on what really matters," she said, helping me fold tiny onesies. Being a wife and mother. 6 months pregnant, exhausted, hormonal. I was making dinner, grilled chicken and vegetables, when Paul walked into the kitchen. I'd just finished writing a note asking if he wanted wine with dinner. He came up behind me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. I held up the note over my shoulder. And he said, "Judith, I need to tell you something." The note fell from my fingers. I turned slowly, my pregnant belly bumping the counter. Paul was standing there, his mouth moving, sounds coming out. Real sounds. "I'm not deaf," he said. I never was. I couldn't process it. "I can hear you perfectly," he continued. His voice was deep, smooth, educated. A voice that had been there all along. I've been able to hear everything this whole time. My legs went weak. I grabbed the counter. The baby kicked hard. "What?" I whispered. "Let me explain." "What?" Louder now. "What did you just say? Please, let me explain." "There's a reason. You're not deaf." I was stating a fact, trying to make it real. You were never deaf. No. The motorcycle accident never happened. Well, I did have one when I was 19, but I was fine. Just some road rash. You've been lying to me for almost 2 years. It wasn't lying exactly. It was more like a test. A test. My mother's idea. After Nicole left me, I was devastated. I thought we were going to get married, and then she left. Said I was too focused on work, not romantic enough, not exciting enough. He was talking faster now, words tumbling out. My mother said I needed to find someone who would love me for who I really was. Someone patient. Someone kind. Someone who would stick around even when things were difficult. So we came up with this plan. My hands went to my belly. I'd pretend to be deaf. Any woman who couldn't handle that, who got frustrated, she wasn't right for me. But someone who stuck around, who learned my language, who was patient, that was someone special. "And you found her," I said numbly. "How wonderful for you." "Judith, does your mother know you're not actually deaf?" He hesitated. Just a moment. "Oh my God." I backed away. "Your mother knows. She's known this whole time." The tears at dinner. The gratitude that I accepted you. That was all part of it. She was trying to help. By lying? I was shouting now. By tricking some desperate woman into marriage? By making me learn a whole language, quit my job, give up my entire life for a lie? You didn't give up your life. You chose. I chose because I thought my husband was deaf. The words ripped out. I thought you needed me to do those things. I thought I was being supportive. But you don't have a disability. You have a sociopath for a mother and no moral compass. Paul's face went pale. That's not fair. Fair? I learned an entire language for you. I quit my career for you. I'm 6 months pregnant with your child and you've been lying to my face for 2 years. I wasn't lying to your face. You couldn't see my face when we were signing. Get out. Judith, please. Get out of my house. It's our house. I don't care. Get out. Go stay with your mother since you two are apparently partners in fraud. He left. Actually left. Grabbed his keys and walked out, leaving me alone with the grilled chicken burning on the stove and my entire world in ruins. I called my sister Rachel, sobbing so hard she couldn't understand me. She drove over immediately, found me sitting on the kitchen floor surrounded by sign language books, tearing pages out one by one. He's not deaf, I kept saying. He was never deaf. Rachel held me while I cried. Then I called my mother. Judith, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. How's my son-in-law? Did you know? Silence. Mom, did you know that Paul isn't deaf? That he's been pretending? That he and Hannah cooked up this scheme to test whether I was worthy? More silence. Then, Hannah mentioned they wanted to make sure any woman Paul married would be committed for the right reasons. I hung up. Threw the phone across the room where it shattered against the wall. She knew, I told Rachel. My own mother knew and she went along with it. Getting her spinster daughter married off at last. Oh, Judy. That's what Rachel called me when we were kids. What am I going to do? I'm 6 months pregnant. I quit my job. All my savings went into this house. I was 33 years old, 6 months pregnant, unemployed, and I'd just discovered my entire marriage was built on a lie. Rachel stayed with me. Paul called repeatedly. I didn't answer. He showed up at the house. I locked the door and told him through the wood that if he didn't leave, I'd call the police. He left letters. I burned them without reading them. Hannah came by. I didn't let her in either. Judith, please be reasonable, she called through the door. You're carrying my grandchild. You lied to me for almost 2 years. I called back. You watched me struggle to learn sign language. You watched me quit my career. You cried at our wedding like you were so grateful someone would accept your damaged son. All while knowing it was fake. While knowing you were testing me like a lab rat. We were trying to protect Paul. You were trying to control him. Make sure she was submissive enough, patient enough, grateful enough to put up with whatever you decided to dish out. She left. But kept calling. So did Paul. So did my mother. I was alone with my growing belly and my rage and my grief. Because it was grief. The man I'd married didn't exist. Every sign language conversation, every written note, every moment of silent understanding, all tainted now. Had he laughed at me when I practiced signing? Did he think I was stupid for not figuring it out? And worse, did I even know him at all? Rachel found me a therapist. Dr. Andrea Jones. A calm woman in her 50s. Tell me what happened, she said in our first session. I told her everything. My loneliness before meeting Paul. The pressure from my mother. The relief of finding someone who seemed to see past my age and unmarried status. Learning sign language, quitting my job, the pregnancy, the reveal. Dr. Jones listened without interrupting. That's quite a betrayal, she said when I finished. I started crying again. He says it was a test to find someone who would love him for himself. And how do you feel about that? I feel like I was a contestant on some sick game show where I didn't know I was competing. That's valid. Your consent was violated. But I need to ask you something, Judith. She leaned forward. In those 8 months before you married, did you love him? Of course I did. Why did you love him? Because he was kind and thoughtful and patient and I stopped. Because he was deaf. No, of course not. Are you sure? Because the deaf man Paul was pretending to be had very specific qualities. He was quiet. He communicated deliberately. He couldn't interrupt you or talk over you. He had to really listen to everything you wrote or signed. He seemed patient because he had no choice. He seemed thoughtful because every communication required thought. I sat with that. Was she right? Had I fallen in love with Paul's silence? With the fact that he couldn't judge me out loud, couldn't voice the disappointment I'd seen in every other man's face? He still lied, I said finally. Yes. And that's not okay. But the question isn't whether what he did was wrong, it clearly was. The question is what you want to do now. What did I want to do? I was 7 months pregnant. Living off Rachel's charity and my dwindling savings. Paul had offered to keep paying bills. I'd refused. Taking his money felt like accepting the lie. I don't know if I can ever trust him again. That's fair. Trust once broken is very difficult to rebuild. But it's not impossible, if both people are willing to do the work. What work? Brutal honesty. Complete transparency. Accountability. And time. Paul came to therapy the following week. First time I'd seen him in a month. He looked terrible. Thinner, gray under his eyes, suit wrinkled. He started to sign something, then caught himself. Sorry. Habit. Don't, I said sharply. Don't you dare use sign language with me again. His hands dropped. Okay. Dr. Jones gave us ground rules. I could ask any question. Paul had to answer honestly. He couldn't leave until the session was over. Why? I asked. Not the bull about finding true love. The real reason. Why did you do this to me? Paul looked at his hands, then at me. Because I'm a coward. I hadn't expected that. Nicole didn't leave me because I wasn't romantic enough. She left me because I'm boring, Judith. I'm good with computers and numbers, but I'm terrible with people. Small talk makes me anxious. Social situations exhaust me. I'm awkward and stiff. So you decided to say nothing at all? Yes. He met my eyes. Being deaf gave me an excuse. I didn't have to make conversation at parties. I didn't have to be charming. I could just exist. And people would think I was strong and brave instead of weird and antisocial. And I was what? Your perfect disabled husband accessory? No. You were amazing, Judith. Smart and talented and beautiful. Way out of my league. But as a deaf man, I had a chance. You saw me as someone who needed you. And I took advantage of that because I'm selfish and scared. I wanted to hit him. You're right, I said. You are a coward. And selfish. And you stole almost 2 years of my life. I know. You watched me give up my career. I know. And that was wrong. If you want to go back to architecture, I'll support that. Financially, logistically, whatever you need. I'm about to have a baby, Paul. Then after, whenever you're ready, I'll hire a nanny. I'll take parenting leave, whatever it takes. Dr. Jones intervened. Paul, what Judith is saying is that the consequences of your deception are real and lasting. You can't just fix them with money or promises. I know. He looked at me. I know I can't fix this. But I want to try. If you'll let me. We went to therapy every week. Sometimes twice. Paul answered every question, no matter how painful. Did he laugh at me? Sometimes, yes, when I messed up signs badly. Did he read my private journals? No, never. Did he love me? Yes. With tears in his eyes. 8 months pregnant, I moved back home. To the house in Palo Alto. But I had conditions. He slept in the guest room. We weren't together. We were 2 people cohabitating until I figured out what I wanted. That's fine, Paul said. Whatever you need. The baby came 3 weeks later. A girl. 10 fingers, 10 toes, healthy lungs she demonstrated immediately. They placed her on my chest, and I looked up to find Paul crying in the corner. Do you want to hold her? I asked. He nodded, unable to speak. Actually unable this time, choked up with emotion. I handed our daughter to him and watched his face transform. Pure wonder. She's perfect, he whispered. She's ours, I said. We named her Olivia. And she changed everything. Not immediately. I was still angry, still hurt. But Olivia needed both of us. And in those early exhausted weeks, Paul was there. Patient with Olivia's screaming. Calm when I was falling apart. Competent with bottles and diapers and everything I was terrified I'd mess up. "You're good at this," I said one night at 2 in the morning. Olivia had finally fallen asleep, and we were sitting in the nursery, too tired to move. "I had to be," he said quietly. "I knew I'd already messed up with you. I couldn't mess up with her too." We kept going to Dr. Jones, sometimes with Olivia in a baby carrier. Slowly, painfully, we started to build something new. Not the relationship we had before, that was dead, built on lies. But something else. Something honest. "I'm still angry," I told him 6 months after Olivia was born. "I know. I don't know if that will ever go away completely. I know. I need you to understand that you don't get to control this. The timeline, the forgiveness, any of it. I understand." And he did. He gave me space when I needed it. He was there when I needed that instead. He went to therapy himself. His mother was different. I didn't speak to Hannah for a year. Finally, when Olivia was 14 months old, I agreed to meet her. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Yes, you do. I thought I was helping Paul. But I was really just trying to control his life like I couldn't control my own marriage. I hurt you terribly. I'm sorry, Judith. It wasn't enough. But it was something. If you want a relationship with your granddaughter," I said, "you need to understand that I'm not the submissive, grateful daughter-in-law you thought you were getting. I have opinions. I have boundaries. And I will not tolerate any more manipulation. I understand. And you need to get therapy. Real therapy. Because whatever made you think that test was okay is not something I want around my daughter." Hannah looked like I'd slapped her. But she nodded. "I'll find someone." She did. It didn't fix everything. Hannah and I would never be close. But it made family gatherings bearable. My mother was harder. She still insisted she was just trying to help. We're cordial now. But something broke between us that never fully healed. Paul and I had another baby 3 years later, a boy we named Henry. And somehow, in the chaos of 2 kids and sleepless nights, we found our way to something that looked like love. Real love. Not the fairy tale I'd imagined when I was 32 and lonely. But something messier, harder, more honest. We renewed our vows on our 10th anniversary. Small ceremony, just us and the kids and a few close friends. No sign language interpreter this time. Just real spoken words. "I promise to never lie to you again," Paul said. "Even when the truth is uncomfortable. I promise to keep choosing you," I said. "Even when I'm angry. Even when I remember." That was 28 years ago. We're 68 and 65 now. Olivia is married with 2 kids. Henry just got engaged. And Paul and I are still here, still choosing each other. Some days I still feel the ghost of that betrayal. Some days I look at him and remember the moment in the kitchen. Some days I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd left. But then I think about Olivia's wedding, watching Paul walk our daughter down the aisle with tears streaming down his face. Henry calling to ask his dad's advice on engagement rings. The quiet evenings on our porch, Paul's hand in mine. I think about the fact that we talk now. We really talk. About feelings and fears and mistakes. We talk in a way I never did with the silent man I thought I married. Maybe Dr. Jones was right. Maybe I fell in love with the idea of Paul, not the real person. And maybe he fell in love with the idea of me too. But we stayed long enough to meet each other for real. And we chose to love those people instead. The real, flawed, complicated people we actually are. Was it worth it? I don't know. Some days yes. Some days no. But it's my life. The one I chose. The one I keep choosing. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others who might need to hear it, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about second chances, forgiveness, and the messy reality of choosing love over and over again. Sometimes the hardest truths lead to the most honest relationships.